Good morning, one and all. Honorable guests, esteemed faculty, and fellow students. Media management as a subject has long baffled our young and impressionable minds. Let's pause for a second and ask ourselves, what is media management? I'm sure there are some people in the audience who would say the term media manager is just a fancy name for people who are in the business of buying and selling of ad spots and spaces. From a bird's eye view, yes, that is absolutely and undoubtedly spot on. But the soon to be hotshot media managers in the audience today would agree with me when I say this business, this craft is more. Much, much more than that. Associating a brand with the right media to reach the right target audience at the right time and garner maximum impact in the process in terms of achieving business objectives is what media management is. Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication, PG Pune, is proud to present to you Media Conclave 2015. The theme for the day is Navigating the Future Media Landscape. The Conclave is the second of many events under the Inspire series. The Inspire series will be a host of events that seeks to showcase the 25-year heritage that SIMC Pune boasts of in the media industry through its alumni and its standing in the industry. A part of the Inspire series, this conclave will witness revered speakers from different verticals in the industry, inspiring, enlightening, and mentoring our students to be future leaders. The purpose of this conclave is for students to delve deeper into the space of media, engage with eminent stalwarts over issues the industry is currently tackling, and debate the future of this trade. Professor Chandan Chatterjee could not be here with us today, but he wishes to share a few words with the audience through this short video.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the first Conclave. I'm really sorry that I'm not here physically. As you can see, I'm a little under weather, but I would like to use this opportunity to talk to you a little about SIMC and this conclave. SIMC is now in its 25th year, it's our silver jubilee year, and we have done a lot of things to be the institute we are today. We are ranked for both of our programs, the MBA and the MAMC. And this particular specialization of ours, the media management one, is rather close to us, and given the large change that's happening in the media management space, I believe that our decision to get into this in 2011 was absolutely the correct one. I also want to talk about conclaves. This is where we get very senior industry professionals to come and discuss about current issues at length, both among themselves, so that there is broad opinion and views that are shared, which is beneficial to our students. But I do recall in the previous conclave, which was the PR one, many of the participants who were CEOs of PR agencies themselves felt enriched because of the discussion. So, this particular media management conclave is themed around navigating the future media landscape, and there are three broad panels: drivers of growth for media business, the new phase of media research and analytics, and talent management, which is about changing roles and skill set. As I've said, personally, it's my loss that I'm not going to be here, but I'm sure that what is going to follow is going to be of great relevance to our students, faculty, and the industry as a whole. Thank you very much. I wish this conclave all the best.
To say a few words and declare the event open.
Good morning, everybody. I welcome you once again. Very warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Mr. Amit Ray, and the panelists of the first panel, Mr. Tanmay Mohanty, Mr. Anil Fernandez, and Ms. Atri Chakraborty. The first panel is going to be monitored by Professor Pooja Valeja. Now, Professor Chatterjee has already told you almost everything about this conclave and the purpose and all that. There are hardly anything which I can add to his speech. I would just like to tell you, as a lot of you may not be knowing what has happened in the past, that though it is the first conclave, we have had seminars in the media management area from 2012 2012, we had a seminar on print. 2013, we had a seminar on TV. And 2014, we had a seminar on media research. So this year, since we are celebrating our silver jubilee, we are having conclaves in all three areas of our specializations. I wish that Professor Chatterjee would have been here with us, but as you are aware that he had a bad fracture, and on 3rd he had to undergo an operation. So we are going to miss him today. We are also going to miss our adjunct faculty, Mr. Pradyuman Maheshwari, who unfortunately lost his father yesterday. So he can't be with us here today. Our deepest condolence goes to Pradyuman and his family. Okay, so you already know all the three panels. What sort of Professor Chatterjee has not mentioned that after the first panel, we have a talent showcase by senior media management students who have all worked on various case studies, that is, their ideas, based on their ideas of research tools which can fill in gaps in the industry. That is going to be a very, very interesting session which will come after the first panel discussion, and then it will be followed by lunch, and of course in second half we'll have the other two panel discussions. So I wish that you all enjoy this conclave, and as far the first year students are concerned, I hope that this is going to clear some of your confusions and going to help you to make up your mind to come to media management specialization. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for those encouraging words.
Our next event will be a research showcase, a presentation by the Media Management Specialization students of SIMC, which focuses on the need to innovate in this ever-changing industry. The brief was to come up with a tool innovation that can be used to aid the media industry in solving a problem the agency or the industry faces as a whole. We have 3 judges for this event. Our first judge is Mr. Paritosh Joshi, currently the principal at Provocateur Advisory. Mr. Joshi was formerly associated with Star CJ India as CEO and Star Network India Private Limited as president. He specializes in development of business strategy, media planning, consumer insights, and analytics. Our next judge is Mr. Romil Ramgadia, Chief Business Officer at BARC India, an alumnus of St. Xavier's. Mr. Ramgadia has previously been associated with Zee, Viacom 18, Airtel, and Asian Paints. He specializes in marketing communications and research, media planning, and buying. And we have Mr. Ankit Desai, Head, Media and Digital Marketing, India and Global Center of Excellence at Marico Limited. He is an alumnus of Symbiosis International University and specializes in digital marketing, media planning, and buying. He has been associated previously with NDTV, Group M, and Jagran. It's a pleasure having all of you all here. The teams in order of the presentations are Team 1, Media Minions, Team 2, Challengers, Team 3, Team Group, Team 4, Mavens, and Team 5, Transit. I'd like to call the first team to present. Once again, the first team is Media Minions.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Monica from the team Media Minions, and today we are going to present our media tool to you. But before that,
Ravi, have you found a urologist for me?
Don't worry, Dad. I'll find a good doctor.
Please ask today, otherwise you'll get busy.
No, Dad. I use Practo.com to look for doctors.
well, isn't that incredible how much impact one simple radio message can create in the minds of its listeners? Well, I believe most of you don't even buy that. For that, we have science to back it up the data. Recently, we got an opportunity to attend MV's 2015 at Mumbai, where various agencies presented their case studies on various brands. There we learned a very interesting fact on radio, that radio works on the science of psychoacoustics, a perfect symphony between the sound and the mind that triggers an action. Well, with that thought, we decided to do our research on radio. Worldwide, many researches have been done in the field of radio. My fellow teammates shall take you through the journey.
Hi, before Sakshi takes us through the research, we'll have a quick look on the trends in radio. So the first graph is from Exchange for Media, which says the maximum radio is consumed at home, followed by transit, public places and offices. The radio industry has been growing with the constant growth rate of 14.5%. According to IRS report, 2012 IRS quarter two data reports, the FM radio has an audience of 106 million, and the overall radio industry has an audience of 158 millions. Now Sakshi will take over.
So now this data shows that while we are capitalizing on radio, now we see what techniques are being used all over world. So one is our media watch, which is the watch records sound of few seconds every minute. And the second one is the people meter, which tracks embedded audio through inaudible code. Despite these developments, only 7 out of 79 countries use these techniques because of high cost of operation, which is around 1.2 to 1.3 crore annually. Then comes widely used diary method, which currently is used in India, wherein listeners are asked to record their listening patterns on a diary, which is being given by RAM in India. Interestingly, MRUC has come with day after recall, where listeners are asked next day what they had listened to previous day. Next.
So now, if I may, ask you guys what did you had for lunch yesterday, I don't think many of you can recall. And if I just ask what did you had day before yesterday, I don't think I'll get any answers. So I just want to highlight the basic human nature, right? The poor recall. This is where we humans, fall back. And this is what basically is the drawback of the traditional measurement media, that there is a poor recall. People are not able to recall what they exactly did. Apart from this, we have constant persuasion method in the diary method, where the sample is constantly, they are to be reminded that you need to fill this data in the diary after listening to the radio, which is not feasible every time.
The second gap which we identified is through these techniques, we are not able to decide that the when and why the switchover was happening.
The third being the quarter hour matrix, which says that we do not capitalize on exact time spent by a viewer. Since there's a time cap of 15 minutes, we don't really understand when the viewer is switching. For example, if I'm switching after 9 minutes, we'll not be able to capitalize the fact, and that it will be recorded that the listener has listened for 15 minutes. So this is one of the drawbacks of radio.
Sakshi, I think enough with the revision. Kunal, please present the big idea now.
Right, thank you so much, Monica. Finally, I get an opportunity to talk. Well, as we had a quick background check of what's happening as of now, the current trends as well as the research done in radio, let's move towards what our main objective of this is. Well, after that we have had a very good, insightful panel discussion in which the thrust continues of obtaining new radio listeners as well as the dip in the addicts. Well, I seize this opportunity to present a measurement tool. It's an advanced electronic and technologically backed up measurement tool. Well, in this, we literally define listenership. And how do we do that? Well, that is in terms of actually killing the gap identified in the previous slides. Ahead to this, let me just introduce you the big concept. So the main idea in this is just 3 simple steps. The very first talks about how do we capture the frequencies, how do we record the sessions. We have certain switchovers that takes place in radio stations. Every time when a user is making use of FM station, he might just end up switching to it. So how do we capture this? 2, how do we retain it? So it is all about storage. That storage has to be on certain devices that we consider. And the third important part of this idea is how do we retrieve it? This retrieval is very important in terms of maintaining a database that we are going to create. As we go next, let me just explain you the algorithm. The entire process is very simple, again, distributed in 3 steps, and this particularly starts with the hardware and software considerations. As we said that we have various devices available onto which people make use of FM listening. that typically is smartphones, it's mobile phones, transistors that ma'am is saying that's going to still be there. And then you have got car stereos, which is again a popular medium for people to listen FM when they're commuting. So we've got the hardware and software considerations over here, in which, sorry for that, yeah. Okay, in which I believe Monica can explain us few about the software part.
Basically, software part is today in India is very simple. So for any Android-based phone, we can come up with a mobile app that can store the data in the cache of the radio listenership. Basically, it will capture the frequencies. And for online listenership, what we can do is we can come up with a little piece of code which will ask the users to log in, okay, whenever they are trying to listen to the radio, so that we can have that database as well.
Oh, that's great, Monica. And as far as the hardware part is concerned, I remember having a word with Mr. Sanjeev Kotnala from the industry, whereby he made us realize how are you actually going to work out over the hardware part of it. That's where we realized if at all we could make a slot arrangement or for a simple chip that could be as simple as microcontroller 8085 or 86, which will provide you capturing of those frequencies on its memory. And it's very simple to be done with embedded real-time programming with assembly language. So if we can include that for our pilot search, it would be amazing. Well, the next part of this is the operation. Now, how actually the operation takes place. It's all about 5 simple steps. The first one talks about, with these different devices, we'll be capturing the frequencies, the switchovers, the duration for how long it would be heard, and most important, the location, if it's mobile or if it's stationary. So the step 1 is all about at the first place, talking about your markets, a good research about the markets. We have to understand beyond the demographics where our pilot is going to roll out. Second is the sampling. So we have to consider stratified sampling over here. This is typically multi-stage because of the various listenership patterns available in the markets. The third one is right now, as I said, with the previous technology of software and hardware implementation, how we are going to get the information. Fourth one here deals about retrieving it into a centralized hub that's going to take us to the 5th step of maintaining a database. Now what exactly happens when we're talking about maintaining a database? Fine, we get the information, but how we are going to actually put it in the database. So we technically tabulate this against airtime check data. I believe all the radio media planners would be aware of this, what airtime check data is, what the radio stations provide this. So once we tabulate it against that, the perfect computation falls into the database that helps us provide good information about all the listenership across the country. After this, it's about budgeting or the feasibility aspects that my colleague Rucha would explain.
So for the feasibility, our idea is that the main budget will go into R&D costs, the low engineering and manufacturing costs, and the major portion of it will go for the implementation cost. But the biggest plus point of our idea is that it's on very cheap on hardware development. For the microcontroller cost for $230. So we have really reasonable hardware development.
And this takes us on to the last slide of our presentation, which talks about the business implication. Now, we in this radio industry are at this particular phase where the phase 3 rollout has not yet happened. Now, we all know there are different opportunities that one can look forward to once this rollout takes place, but what exactly are these opportunities? So as we all know, there would be different channels, there would be different stations which would be available in several cities. But hello, to what extent? We know that the gap between the 2 radio stations has to be maintained of 800 kilohertz. But however, with maintaining the spectrum, it can be minimized to 200 kilohertz. And with this, there will be an avenue opened for new community channels, which is very essential. Now, what happens for these community channels? They will be targeting a very specialized TG. And for this, our data bank would be very essential for them. Of course, for the advertisers and the broadcasters too. Once this is done, we realize that it is also eliminating the drawbacks of diary methods that my colleagues have already explained in the initial slides. After that, we also see that the special focus that RULE is going to give on is into the rural segment, because as ma'am rightly pointed out, the 60% mobile phone penetration is in the rural segment of this country. And lastly, that we all see that it is very much technologically backed up, since smartphones and the web portals are having internet, and hence we can easily retrieve it in real time. As far as the implementation in hardware for basic or feature phones is concerned, we can retrieve that employing a force to go and collect the information. But this somewhere truly reduces the human errors and of course the drawbacks of the previous methods that we have described. These are some of the sources that we did consider before coming up with the idea for this tool. Thank you so much.
you've thought it out quite well. Uh, you've digitized your entire data collection platform, and you've put it on a digital device in terms of the smartphone. You're collecting online from the connected devices for online radio. Why would you keep your data collection as manual?
Sir, it's for the reason that were rightly mentioned in the end, which is the fact that feature phones or basic phones in rural segment are not having internet backup. One, it's also about the connectivity in the rural market. Two, many people happen to make use of FM, or they happen to listen to FM only on transistors or on mobile phones. Again, particularly to the rural segment. When we are aware of the fact that 60% penetration of mobile phones is lying in the rural part, we can't really implement smartphone over there, because despite people being accustomed to make use of smartphones, they might not have the right technology, that is the 4G connection or the internet connection, to help us retrieve it. And hence that is where the manual human intervention comes only as far as the retrieval of data is concerned.
Fair. And the second thing that I want to know is, are you going to use a census technique, or are you looking at sample based?
So it has to be a sample based purely. Thank you so much.
This?
Since morning in the Conclave, we've had loads amount of discussions on digital and traditional media, marketing, etc. So our tool is based on the simple concept of how you can make influencer marketing more effective. So for all those of you who don't know who an influencer is basically a person who can influence the opinion of others. Okay, so we came across this problem during our internships. So most of us did our internships in digital agencies, and we found out that influence marketing is a very new form of marketing and brands are using it consistently. But there is a huge gap which all of us felt that exists in the industry right now. The first gap that we found out was that brands are pumping huge amounts of money into online media, especially influencers. But the money is not being channelized in the right direction. Brands are not choosing the right kind of influencers that can reach the right kind of target audience at the right time. The second thing that we found out was that the marketing concepts, the basic marketing concepts that we've been learning since so many years and Kotler has been talking about, have not been integrated into the digital media as of yet, which we feel is a very important part if you are into the marketing and the branding space, because that helps you channelize your wealth into the right direction. So we came out with a certain objectives for forming this tool after identifying the gaps. We decided that we should have some form of measurement which can actually help identify the right influencers for the right brand and have the right target audience. This is the first objective, and the second one was as simple as integrating the basic marketing concepts into the traditional media. So our tool will be a combination of statistics, marketing, and influencer marketing. These are some of the platforms that we analyzed. So apart from these, we also saw tools like Tap Influence and Tracker, which are not present in India as of yet, but they are there in the Western countries. So the gap that we found out, the problem that we identified, was basically after doing a lot of research on these tools. Seema will take the algorithm and functioning from here.
Hi. So as Suhail correctly said, that the factor that is not being integrated right now is the life cycle stage of the brand. So with our tool, we are trying to solve that problem. What we are trying to do is we have an influencer who's channelizing on various other platforms like Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and blogs. The product life cycle comes into integration here, and the three things that we are measuring is reach, engagement, and contextual fit. So these are the three parameters that we are taking into consideration while calculating the cumulative score for our influencer. So taking you quickly through the algorithm, we enter your category, the brand. It gives you a list of influencers which are relevant to the category brand. After this, you enter the life cycle stage of the brand, which the brand will obviously know, and they will list down influencers according to a certain calculation, which we'll show you. So in the introduction stage, as we see, when the brand is just launching themselves, they want high reach. So as we see, the parameter reach gets the maximum weightage, followed by engagement, and 0 for contextual fit because the brand has not been spoken about till now. When it comes to growth, you're looking at more engagement and less reach. And hence, you have contextual fit, followed after engagement and reach. And lastly, maturity, where the competition is very high, you're looking for the right kind of person talking the right thing to the right audience. And hence, your reach becomes lower because you know that these kind of people are already speaking to you. So the REC score, that is reach, engagement, and the contextual fit score, is based on the number of followers into the reach parameter. Engagement score, as you see, as a percentage that we take out and we multiply into the engagement parameter for that stage. And the contextual fit score will be the percentage again for the context fit into the CF parameter. Can we have the AV please to explain the algorithm? Sorry.
Let's take a brand, say brand X. And let's say the following 3 influencers are available to us on Twitter: A, B, and C. A has 100 followers, B has 60 followers, C has 30 followers. A can get 60% engagement, B 80%, and C 50%. A can get contextually fit data of 10%, B 40%, C 90%. Brand X has just been launched and needs someone to create awareness. As per our tool, 100 into 0.7 plus 60 into 0.3, 88. 60 into 0.7 plus 80 into 0.3, 66. 30 into 0.7, 50 into 0.3, 36. Therefore, A is a clear influencer Brand X has to look for. Brand X is now in the growth stage. 100 into 0.3 plus 60 into 0.5 plus 10 into 0.2 equal to 62. 60 into 0.3, 80 into 0.5, 40 into 0.2, 66. 30 into 0.3, 50 into 0.5, 90 into 0.2, 52. B is the correct influencer Brand X has to look for in the growth phase. Brand X is now in the maturity stage. 100 into 0.2, 60 into 0.4, 10 into 0.4, 48. 60 into 0.2, 80 into 0.4, 40 into 0.4, 60. 30 into 0.2, 50 into 0.4, 90 into 0.4, 62. C is the right kind of influencer Brand X has to look for in the maturity phase. Brand X has used 3 different influencers for 3 unique phases: A for introductory, B for growth, C for maturity. Now, let's look at the limitations.
So, as you see, the influencer A had a high reach, and so did the calculations show that we chose the A influencer for the introductory phase. The influencer B had a very high engagement according to the numbers that we mentioned, and the calculation showed the same, that you choose the B influencer. And when it comes to contextually fit, the C influencer was very more contextually fit, and the calculation showed the same. Now Aniket will present the limitations to you.
Okay, so like every idea or concept, even we have a few limitations. 3 points to mention here. So it'll be very difficult to understand whether if a campaign has been successful or failed, whether it's the influencer which has been appropriate or the content. Secondly, because influencers are human beings, individual human beings, it'll be very difficult. It's a negotiable process, so it's very difficult to understand the ROI out of this. And thirdly, tools such as Tap Influence have certain factors which we are not taking in consideration. We have just moved on to certain other factors. Yeah. And now Suhail will go through certain extra information which we have.
So just to give you a more clear understanding of how the tool will look and what are the parameters it will have, we've created a basic dashboard which it will have related to the profile data capture and the campaign data capture. So the profile data capture will have all the information which is related to the influencer and the admin. This is just there so that the entire process is very transparent. transparent enough for the brands who are taking part in this process, and also for the influencers. So for an influencer, for a brand, the brand can obviously see that how much time an influencer has spent per campaign, the total application that he's made, the pending campaigns that are there, the campaigns he's completed and executed. Now when you come to the admin data capture, over here also you will have a lot of information, like when brands choose influencers, a lot of influencers start applying to them. So you will have the entire information regarding that person, regarding his name, age, city, gender, the brands that he's worked on, the campaigns that he's completed, the campaigns that have been pending. So this will give a brand a very clear idea as to how robust the influencer is and how active he is on the online platform. These are the influencer analytics which will be shown. So there will be impressions in terms of Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest and blogs. These are the only 4 platforms which we are targeting right now. We have not included Facebook as a platform over here because per se it doesn't have any influencers. So yeah. Thank you so much.
Will any brand call itself a brand in maturity? Will any brand recognize itself as not being in the growth stage?
Yes, sir. So if you're launching an absolutely new product into the market, for example, 1+1 was being launched. They chose an entirely different marketing campaign. They chose influencers who were contextually fit for their brand. But that was the marketing strategy. So if you're launching an entirely new product into the market, you need more awareness. So the brand is aware of that we are not there in the market right now. We need more people to look at us. So that is where this entire thing will come into
about
play.
a launch brand. I'm
Right.
saying if there's an existing brand. So there is, Ford Motor Company has been in the business of making automobiles for the last 100 years. And Tesla has been in the business of making automobiles for the last 3 years. Do you think Ford Motor Company says that I am now a mature brand and Tesla is a growth brand? Or how does Ford see itself?
So Ford will see itself in terms of sales and market share. So once you've got that data, a brand has the data regarding the sales and the market
You
share.
had 3 stages there.
Yeah,
you
we
had a
had
launch
3
stage, growth and maturity. So which stage is Ford at? What do you think Ford would say?
Ford would see, it depends on what kind of vehicle Ford is launching. So if it's launching an SUV, for example, then the market, and it also depends on the demographic that they're launching in. So if they're launching it in India, I won't say that India is a matured market for SUVs. So considering the number of products that are there in the market and considering the sales and the market share that is there, a brand can obviously decide that they are in the majority stage or the growth stage.
Alright, let's take it back to my home ground. I sell oil. Yeah, so you heard of parachute, right? Where would you classify parachute? Maturity stage. We don't see it like that. Yeah, so as a brand, every time I have a new proposition, a new message for the consumer, I want to get reach, yeah, and I want to get engagement. So honestly, how do you actually classify them under these 3 models? And that's our biggest disconnect, because as a brand, depending on what my task is at that moment, at that point in time, I'll choose whether I want to go after engagement, I want to go after reach. So the basic classification itself has a mismatch for me as a brand owner.
So you can see, so it depends, you can choose if you're doing a particular campaign and you feel that I want a more contextually fit audience for this campaign, or I want a more engaging audience for my campaign, so you can manually define the parameters on the tool. So it's up to you, it's up to the brand. As we said, the entire tool is in the hands of the brand. So it's very transparent.
Fair. So I would rather recommend that you don't have these buckets classified the way they are. A better way to use this would be to look at reach, engagement, context, and so on and so forth, rather than saying, I'm going to classify the brand into these 3 stages and therefore now you select one of them.
Yeah, fair.
Also, from your perspective, what do you think is the amount of money that people spend after the digital bucket in this area, and hence why is it so important?
Okay.
Maybe someone in the developed market. So I'm.
So we figured from whatever we found, influencers range when they take money from about 20,000 to about 10 lakhs for a tweet. So that's a lot of money when you see for a brand when it comes to investment. And if it is not being invested in the right sense and in the right area, it could just be, and it's not getting or garnering the right kind of impressions what the brand is looking for, then it would not really add up to what they want to fairly get at the end of the day. Thank you.
The next team is Team 3, whose name is Team Group.
The one thing common again amongst all these pictures is the pace at which they all broke the internet. But other than that, there is hardly a common denominator amongst them. And this made us ask ourselves one question, that what kind of content goes viral? And why does it go viral? How does it go viral? And can we predict virality? Interestingly, so did you know the fact that the Swachh Bharat campaign to become as successful and as viral as the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, Narendra Modi just needed to influence the first set of 9 people, out of whom only 5 to 4 were influential people, and the rest is history as we know it. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sejal Goyal, along with my team, Samarth, Mehak, and Ravya, and we introduce to you our tool, Viral. A lot of misconceptions revolve around the word viral. So before going ahead, we would like to clearly state the dictionary meaning of the word viral. Virality is the tendency of an image to go viral, of an image, video, or piece of information to be circulated very rapidly from one internet user to another. It is not broadcasted by any medium. It is not broadcasted by any medium whatsoever and diffused mostly from person to person, purely organic. The shelf life of viral content has been reduced to a few weeks or a few months, maybe a few hours, because of the sea of content that the people are exposed to. But if predicted correctly, even this minuscule shelf life can be used to its fullest potential by brands and content generators. So when Ellen DeGeneres took a selfie at the Oscars, it made a record. But along with that, Samsung recognized the potential of such image, catching the fancy of the audience and thus benefiting from the association. Very predictable. However, nobody could have known the virality of pretentious movie reviews which we watched, latest being the Kya Kehna movie review, which we all watched, would reach that, we never thought that it would reach such unprecedented heights. It could be called a fluke. People call virality a fluke. But people say that maybe it's the right platform at the right time, at the right content. Then we again say that there is no way of knowing this. However, we decided to change this.
So in the current market, number of shares, engagement, number of likes, and the number of views a particular piece of content gets are usually the standard metrics for predicting the virality of a particular piece of content. There are also tools in the market that measure the response of the audience for a particular content in terms of emotional diagnostics. However, the limitation is that there is a broad classification, in fact generalization. There are content that evokes positive emotions, has a higher probability of getting shared. But other than that, we did not find a very adequate linkage between a plethora of other emotions and the intent to share. Also, most of these tools deploy these emotional diagnostics on ads and not organic content. However, organic content is the king right now and has the potential for a lot of interesting brand integration.
So what exactly is a big idea? How exactly can we reach out to the right consumer, buy the right content on the right platform? With so much focus on advertising being in your face, advertisers actually have to find new avenues to reach out to their target audience in a way which is not invading their privacy. Traces of which we can already see through, let's say, the seamless integration of Snapdeal into AIB videos. So basically, brands need to go beyond the traditional arena and there is not much weightage given to the factors.
The phenomenon of virality, with its tendency and power to make or break the content, is exciting and maddening. The tool allows for us to have a method to this madness. It provides for the measurement of previous campaigns using a specific algorithm involving the K factor. K is the number of invites multiplied by conversion rate. So if the invite is sent to a single person with 50% conversion, the K factor is 0.5. A K factor higher than 1 typically means that the content will go viral. The pilot content which needs to be tested is sent to the respondents. Using facial expression recognition technology, micro and macro expressions are recorded and quantified over viewing period. For example, a person's data has 5 positive expressions and 2 negative ones. In this case, it will broadly be classified as a positive content. Research shows that the content that evokes positive emotions is more likely to get shared. However, we have negative documentary called Nirbhaya documentary, which was overtly negative and still went phenomenally viral. Hence, it is important to deep dive into each point of emotional inflection and its impact on the intent to share the content. For the same, we have bucketed the emotions into 7 macro expressions, namely anger, fear, fright, grief, joy, worry, and pensiveness, and various micro expressions.
So the method for this madness will have a respondent strength of 1,000 people. Using a server, a live test will be conducted through webcams of participants. While the respondents watch a video at a particular time, the webcam will gauge expressions of people using our software client, much like a George Orwell 1984 concept, but more friendly way. Positive expressions which correlate to the share intent and the negative ones which don't are then quantified using analysis, and an emo score is determined. The affinity of the same content in a different process is then calculated using TG, demographics, and psychological factors, and a tipping point is determined. The tipping point is the measure of a value beyond which the content will go viral, much like the K factor. If the final emo score is found to be greater than the tipping point, the content will go viral. If less, it's a dud. This is a Hawkeye view of the architecture of the tool. The admin panel, the dashboard, that is connected to a centralized server. Data storage, which consists of results and forms, etc., and the computing engine are handled by the server itself. A software client needs to be downloaded by the respondents, and they must agree to be a part of the working, also allowing access to their webcam for limited use. 1,000 people just have to stare at their screens and enjoy the testing video. Well, this is a very basic and rather crude view of the wireframe of our tool. The dashboard will be much more aesthetically appealing once we go ahead with it. Thank you. There is one more thing that needs to be mentioned, is that the reach for this tool and the people and the companies which will be using our tool will not just be brands. Our tool can also be used by influencers, content generators, curators like Superwoman, AIB, TVF, Scoop Hoop, etc. to test their content before putting it out. For example, Yash Raj Films tied up with the East India Comedy for their movie Byomkesh Bakshi to promote their movie in the form of a short video which didn't work for them. We spoke to Sahil Shah from East India Comedy. He said brands look for a sure shot guarantee for viral content, and which is not available right now. This successfully implies that virality is that of content and not of content generators and brands. The potential is endless. It's time we tap it.
Actually, not just for virality, I think the larger theme that you can do facial recognition for research in general is a subject of very large scale work in research now. So neuroscience, not just involving, I mean, here it goes beyond that. It's pupil dilatation, it's movement of the eye around the screen, and Nielsen, for example, have some proprietary tools in this area. They actually connect you up to an EEG, an electroencephalograph. So the tool is already available. So I don't know what you're inventing. This is something that I could have got out of a literature review.
The thing is that we did not invent the tool, and we just took it up because it's a technology which is available. Our tool basically consists of the whole accumulation of everything, gathering data, also storing data, sending out, and the main part of our tool is where we give out surveys, not just surveys, videos, content, anything, and people can view it from their own webcam. So a whole concept of putting out a software client which people will download and agree to respond to is the whole idea of
I understand that your focus is specifically on digital audio video content and how it will or will not go viral. Is there any way in which you could sort of concept test this idea in a real world sense? Did you have any attempt at that, or this is just purely?
So other than that, the concept of tipping point is something that we did not find in the other tools. Like you said, yes, there is facial recognition. Yes, there is prediction of how people react to content, but that's about it. So like we said, there is a lot of research like that done in terms of ads, but not organic
So it's
content.
the behavioral tipping point that you are introducing
Yes,
into the concept.
What we are saying that, let's say it's a honey sing video, the affinity for it would be greater. I mean, it's a very broad generalization, but the affinity for it would be greater in North India, let's say, than a state in Southern India. So what we are saying that for a person to reach that level of emotional stimulation to share that content will be higher in southern states for a honey sing video than the stimulation required for the same video in the northern regions. So which is what we are comparing with the emotional scores. If they're in sync, that is what we are comparing. So essentially, tipping point, which is encompassing the demographics and psychographics, is what we think is our discriminator.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Team is Team 4 and they are the Mavens.
A very good afternoon to all, and our team consists of myself, Shruti, Maitri, Nelita, and Karishma Malpani, and we are Team Mavens. And today we have come up with a measurement tool of calculating the duplicated audience on secondary screen. As rightly mentioned by many of the speakers from morning, we are known that the future is digital, and we all agree upon that. And what led to this explosion in digital space is the higher consumption of digital devices. There are over 200 million smartphone users and over 40 million tablet users in India as of 2015. And the number is continuously rising, and the consumption of these devices are growing multifold year on year, and thus leading to the behavioral change of TV audiences in India. So this is how TV was viewed in 1980s and 1990s, where you didn't have digital and technology was not at stake. And now this is how we are. We watch digital in all the mediums. And now we actually live in Jet Jones era, where we are surrounded by technology and digital. And this is changing the behavioral pattern of the television viewers in India. And with just 8 seconds of human attention span, multi-screening has become more proliferation than ever. The research shows that 77% of the television viewers are using another device at the same time. The secondary screen behavior of audience is hindering the impact of the commercials on TV. Hence, this situation is creating a demand for understanding the audience on secondary screen for a particular time slot. And our tool measures this. And with the use of our tool, we can understand the cross-screening behavior of the audiences in different digital platforms. And through that, the marketers can optimize their plan accordingly and effectively spend their expenses and budget, and which results in the higher return on investments. Hence, retargeting on the digital platform is the tool which we're talking about. Over to Narita.
So coming to our tool development process, the first thing we did was identify the gap. That is, we observed that a lot of people today use second screens. However, there was no tool which could measure this second screen behavior accurately and during a particular time slot. Hence, we sat down together to generate ideas which would help marketers target the audience effectively. We came up with the concept and evaluated it in order to identify if we would be able to get the desired outcome that we are looking for. Further on, we would go on to develop the tool, pre-test it, incorporate the necessary changes that would be required, and then launch it into the markets, making it available for media planners to target their audiences more effectively. Coming to our secondary research, this was a Google Insights study which states that 90% of the interactions today are screen-based. On an average, people use a combination of 3 different devices per day. When it was also observed that what they do was basically, they were busy on social media or browsing the internet, gaming and checking emails. Another study by Google Trends by Nielsen stated that the smartphone is the most frequently used companion device for simultaneous usage with other devices. So 77% of the times when we are watching television, we are using another device, out of which 49% of the times we are using the smartphone. We also went on to do a primary research wherein we floated a questionnaire among 63 respondents and got 50 responses. And we also had live observation wherein we took a video to understand second screen behavior. These were the responses. All the responses, that is all 50 of them, said that they multitask, that is they use a secondary device while watching the television. 73% said that they use the smartphone, and 14% said that they use more than one device while watching the television. Apart from that, 60% said that they use it more than twice while watching the television, and 20% said that they watch it during the entire duration. What they were doing was, again, checking social media sites, browsing the internet, checking emails, etc. We also took a video wherein we observed second screen behavior of our audiences. What we figured out is during the show, people weren't really on their phones, but as soon as a commercial was out, people, almost all of them were on their phones. So this shows how important second screen behavior is for marketers today in order to target their audiences more effectively.
So moving ahead to the objective of the tool, as mentioned from the secondary research and primary research, we got to know that the integration of TV and other devices is something which is very important. And also, there hasn't been a continuous study. Yes, there have been studies going on in US and also in India, which tells probably what happens once in a while. That is a research study. There isn't a continuous study which tells us what exactly the consumers or the users do day-on-day basis. So our objective would be basically first to know what the audiences are doing on the secondary devices, and also the duplication of audience for a particular time slot. The concept of the tool. So we came up with 2 things. One would be the remote, and the other would be an application software which would be embedded in the smartphones and the other secondary devices. So yeah, this is how a typical we're thinking of a remote control. There'll be basically 4 switches. Say for example, TV, mobile, tablet, and the laptop. There's a start and a stop button. And going ahead, there'll be a software which will be embedded in the secondary devices. Yeah, going into to the algorithm of the tool. Basically, we thought we would be concentrating on a sample size of 2,000 in the metro cities, and the prerequisite would be the individual should have at least one secondary device. And yes, I would like to emphasize that we're concentrating on individual and not a household. So moving ahead, the algorithm. The input would be, of course, the data from the meter and also the software, what exactly those the individuals are doing, and the output would be the audience duplication. So yeah, to explain it better, say a user comes back from office at around 8 o'clock or so, switches on the TV, and say he's watching Jhalak Dikla Ja on colors. Okay, so the next thing would be once he switches on the TV, he'll click on the TV button and say start, and then the app on the secondary device will get activated. Next, say he starts using his smartphone in between the show. So the app will give the user a time frame of 15 seconds, wherein before 15 seconds the app will not record the activities on the smartphone, and after 15 seconds the app will start tracking as to what are the activities basically the individual is doing. And moving ahead, once say the user goes back to the primary screen, or say he wishes to switch off the primary screen and say presses the red button, the app stops tracking the behavior on the secondary screen. So the output will be explained by Shruti.
So, as an agency, if you want to know what is the outcome of this device is, just like the way you use TAM, you have to put in the conditions of what is your TG and what is your SEC, gender, age group, and then for that particular age group, among the sample size which we have taken, the secondary device, they can choose either whatever the secondary devices are used for that in that particular time slot, which is the social media site of what % of the audience are active in that social media site is the data which is being given out of this software.
Okay, so coming to the most important part, the business implications. Okay, so yeah, there is a gap which the tool will solve. But what about the business implications? Why would agency want to come up with a tool like this? So TV spends in 2015, the first half of 2015 was over 8,000 crores with a growth of 21%, while the digital spends were over 3,000 crores with a growth of 30%. This is the amount of money that is being spent on ad spends in India. So, so much money is being spent of advertising, but for all you know that while you've purchased a very heavy spot on colors during a prime time, but your audience is not watching it. They're busy working on some other device and totally missing your ad. So this tool can help agencies optimize their media investments. So for a particular time slot, the clients can have a higher incremental reach according to a study done by Nielsen. By dividing a small amount of your TV budgets on digital, you can increase your reach by 8%. Also, so another thing, your targeting would become easier. A lot of advertisements are now using an audio code which your mobile automatically catches and displays the same ad on your secondary screen. So if you know during which
Are you familiar with Mary Meeker? There's a lady, she's a partner with Kleiner Perkins, Caulfield and Byers. She does a presentation every year to something called the Recode Conference in San Francisco. And you would be well advised to read that presentation for this year. Because the interesting point that Mary Meeker has been making over the last couple of years is that this is not the second screen. It is the first screen. If there is a screen on which you're making your content choices, if there's a screen on which you're receiving recommendations, if there's a screen on which you're passing recommendations on, that's the interactive screen. The other one is a terminal, it's a monitor. So now, in fact, the challenge for the television, and which TV is trying to solve in various ways, which we could talk about, is that the TV has become the passive screen and this has become the active screen. So which one is the second screen? And if the TV is the second screen, then what is Bach doing?
So as you saw in the prototype, whatever we built, there were 4 buttons basically. There was TV, mobile, laptop, and a tablet. So we know that going ahead, TV might not be the primary screen. So probably once, say, when the mobile becomes, when we start considering that mobile is a primary screen, it would be crucial even to track that.
So anyways, we kept that into consideration, what you're saying, that TV is not the primary screen and mobile and laptops and eventually tablets will become your primary screen. So we've incorporated that. Just for an example, right now we insisted on taking TV because the TV spends in India are still growing and they'll continue to grow obviously. So we thought for now we should consider TV as a primary screen, but going forward, yes.
So, just from a technology standpoint, why do you still need a remote, right? Because technologically you can still figure out the consumption without the remote. Why do you need the remote?
So, but then we won't know whether the consumption of the digital platform is being done on a second screen basis or a primary screen basis. Right?
Also, sir, another thing, sorry to interrupt. Why we considered a remote is because for our research, for whatever tool we're making, time slot is of utmost importance. That there are lots of researches being done to find out the duplication on other mediums and to understand second screen behavior, but there is no continuous study as of now for a particular time slot to understand on what devices a particular individual is while he's watching TV. So this thing will only give us an idea that once he switched on to a primary screen, that is when the app has to start tracking, and that is the particular time slot that we'll have to take into consideration.
Yeah, so you can solve that technologically because there are techniques available, right? So be it watermarking or be it audio matching, so there are techniques available to know that. So because remote is a big issue that worldwide all measurement bodies face, and and specifically in the digital world you can actually get away with it fully. So that's one. Second is in your sample size you mentioned that this is only to be done in the places where there is a second device available. So how will you get the people who are actually not consuming and you're actually not using the second screen, so to say? So it's only in the set where the second screen is consumed. So will that not misrepresent the information set?
No, the research what we'll be conducting basically involves the people who have a secondary screen behavior. The sample size would be such that
so a person who's traditionally watching TV, there is no purpose to retargeting them because they're already getting to view your advertisements on television during that particular time slot. But in our measurement tool, we're trying to concentrate on people who actually are indulging in a second screen behavior. So to retarget them and show them the same display ads that are being watched on television at that moment when they're using their second screens.
The final team to present will be Transit. 10 minutes more and we'll break for lunch.
Crores 14 lakh 8,000 seconds. What do you think that is? Well, that is the amount of time a person spends outdoor in his or her lifetime. And out of this, 20 to 25% of his time is spent in traffic. So this huge amount of non-productive time that a person spends in traffic leads us to an opportunity in the OH industry. So this industry is seeing a huge amount of growth. As we can see from the data, it says 9.8% growth till 2019. Okay, so presently we have a few metric systems in the Indian industry, like the Nielsen's OH metrics, and certain agencies like Group M, DDB Mudra, and Dentsu follow their own currency systems. But there is a lack of a syndicated research study. Having given that 5 to 7% of advertising revenue by a brand is spent on OH, but the lack of a common currency system leads us to a fact that there is a gap to bring up an OH measurement tool. Okay, so from the SCOT analysis, we saw that the major challenge in the OH industry today is that the market is very, very fragmented, and it is very difficult to generalize the parameters because of the dynamicity involved. So this brings us to OMI, which is our OH measurement tool called Outdoor Measurement Indexing, which is a GPS-based tracking system which calculates the reach and the effectiveness of the billboards or the hoardings. So coming to the objectives of OMI, OMI aims to provide a robust and a transparent accountable system in order to capture all the OH data points present in the industry. So the big idea here, how do we aim to achieve this? So as I rightly said before that OMI is a GPS tracking system. We will have So we'll have two indexes in place. First, which is the consumer probability index, and second is the likelihood to see that how likely are the relevant TG to view your advertisement on a particular billboard or a hoarding. OMI fulfills two criteria. First is it leads us to a syndicated research study, and secondly, it also has the ability to track live campaigns.
Getting to the first dimension of OMI, we present a syndicated measurement for all outdoor advertisements. The methodology that we propose is we'll be combining the sample that we will get through the GPS-enabled app and the OH media owners in primary coverage areas that we are taking as our sample. This will be combined to give us a overall data which will give us what and where and how can we advertise on an OH for our relevant TG. So the GPS-assisted app will help us in capturing the sample. A sample of around 15,000 respondents will be taken into consideration from 6 primary coverage areas. These 6 primary coverage areas includes top 6 cities like Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Chennai. So it has a 3-step process, and during the installation part, we will be capturing the respondents' demographic and psychographic interests, and we are also asking them to put in the mode of transport that they will be traveling in. So we have given the normal modes of transport they are doing it. The reason why we've added this aspect into the app is because the time spent in viewing an OOH while we are walking is greater than the time spent that we view an OOH probably while we are in a car, while driving, or while we are in another movable transport. Also, the GPS facility in the app tells us which are the most common traffic areas and where are those areas where our TG is most commonly present. This app will be used by the respondents, and at the end of each day, it will be mapping the route in which the respondent will be going, and in the end of the day, when he comes back home, the home coordinates and the work coordinates will be mapped during the installation process. So we will be asking just 2 or 3 sample questions which will ask them, did you see this billboard during the day, or which category was it? So this will help us measure the ad recall and what OOH in that route will be the most effective amongst our sample. This is the route that we feel the GPS will be helping us to navigate. The sample will give us the data in various forms, which would include the time spent by the respondent in particular areas. It will help us understand the assisted ad recall and the mode of transport that most of the people in that area use. The data from the vehicle owners. By vehicle owners, we mean there are prominent OH players in each of the cities. So from them, we will be taking some descriptors like the size of the billboards, the situation of the hoardings, or if there is a clutter of the hoardings. So in particular areas in Bombay, for example, we will notice 3-4 hoardings which are there on the road. So how will that influence? All this is basically to create a database of OH owners over there. All this combined, our tool would hence give us who travels from where and from when, what is the usual time period where we will get the right amount of TG for a particular brand, and the description of the a part of our tool will also let us know the trend analysis in the later part. So the algorithm that we propose is, it's a 3-step process which will include the travel data, which will include the mode of transport and the time spent by the TG and the traffic data, which we will be getting it from the app. The second is, from the data collected, we'll understand the demographic, psychographic and the general trends of our particular TG and then extrapolate it. And this is the first metric that we propose, which is consumer probability index. It is an index which is a which is a function of the visibility index and the area most visited. Coming to the metric, the area most visited will be calculated, which will be mostly from the data which we get from the app, which will identify first the TG for the brand, which we will be getting either from the media planner or the brand manager. Based on the TG, we will understand the major cities and map it to our PCAs, which is the primary coverage areas. And in those cities, because we have our app, we will understand which are the top visited areas, and then from the top visited areas, the sub areas. So for example, if we get Bandra in Bombay and say Indiranagar in Bangalore, we'll understand even in Bandra which is the perfect routes for our relevant TG. Is it Rinking Road or is it Pali Hill Road? So by the end of this, we want to get a response statement which tells us that X% of my TG goes to area Z and in city Y. So therefore, let's say 40% of my current TG for my brand is present mainly in this particular area. So these are the hoardings that I need to target. The visibility index. The other factor which is used in CPI is the visibility index, which is a combination of the characteristics of the OH. This part will be coming to, we will get to know from the database that we created from the media owners, the audience mode and of transport and the time of the day, which we will get to know from the app, and the location environment. Let's say, for instance, the combination of these parameters will give us a VI for a hoarding as 0.6. So in one particular area, if we have 10 hoardings, these 10 hoardings will have a visibility index, and hence will come to a proper CPI for this particular TG and this particular brand. So hence we come to the third and the final part of this tool metric, which says CPI is visibility index into the area most visited. Hence the CPI for that particular hoarding would be 0.24. The report.
Coming to the report that is generated, the other 3 inputs that we will be taking, which is the TG, the city and the category. And by marrying the 2 data that we've already collected, we propose to launch a report. So first we'll do a comparative analysis. All the hoardings that are available, we know that through the media owners. We'll do a comparative analysis on the following parameters to understand which are the best suited hoardings for us. So suppose we get H1, H2, H3 and H4. The CPI for objective A. So we are saying that a brand usually advertises for 2 reasons. One is to create awareness and one is to increase sales. So the CPI for A would be, as we can see, it's the highest for H3 and H5, which basically means that 80% of your population is likely to see your hoarding if you advertise on H3. Similarly, if you want to increase sales, you would probably choose to advertise near your point of sales, so which is 0.6. Coming to the live trends for content, so we see here we plan to map the reach from social listening and the reach within our sample, which will be conducted through a survey. We see the affinity, and then this brings us to the second metric, which is the CLTC, which is basically the affinity and the reach within the sample. So when we say it's 1.75, it means that if you advertise on a content like AIB, your TG is 1.75 times more likely to see your hoarding. So these are the business implications. The bigger idea is the brand-specific live campaign tracking.
So in brand-specific live campaign tracking, we are also proposing that just apart from a syndicated measurement for the outdoor advertisements, we also can use this tool for tracking live campaigns. So by the possibility for evaluating our campaign will be due to the GPS facility, which will help us understand the assisted ad recall and the effectiveness of OH. And these are the limitations of our tool. Thank you.
this time, applications like, say, Bing and Google Maps attempt to collect, Google Maps in particular does because it has access to Android, collect metadata on location passively. So a whole lot of this information is already available in large scale with Google because it's sitting in the Android operating system. If as it is, that thing already tends to slow the phone down with data availability being such as it is. You're going to first of all replicate the same functionality. So why would you do that? Why would you not instead say that, if Google has data, I take the data from it. Second thing, how does it matter to you whether a person is walking or in a car or she is in a bus or whatever? Because all that matters is the velocity at which you went past a location. So, one of the things that you learn in media research is don't gather data which is superfluous. Gather only that much that is absolutely essential to your purposes. So, if you can get this metadata, you know the pace. I mean, since you mentioned Bandra, so for example, you know that at that point the traffic chokes up and the velocity probably drops to less than walking velocity. So if you are in a car or in a bus or something, you're actually moving slower than if you were walking across the Mime Causeway. So how does it help you to know what is the mode? And what is much more important is whether there was a likelihood. In fact, a walker will have less chance because the walker needs to pay attention to the traffic. But somebody who's just stuck inside a vehicle in a bus or a car or a rickshaw doesn't know much else, have much else to do except, watch viral video or look out of the bus or look out of the car. So why are you gathering superfluous information? Because it just makes it for a kludgy and unnecessary data collection which doesn't help you.
So the reason why we thought we should take the mode of transport is because if you're inside a rickshaw, you really can't see outside, because if you notice you're really down, so you actually have to look out like that to understand whether you're, and nobody really does that. You're always on your screen. Whereas if you're on a bus, the height of your bus is very constant with the hoarding. If your angle changes, then you're more likely to see the hoarding. That is why we thought we should track which mode of transport your TG is traveling in, so that you understand where you want to advertise. So for example, if your TG is traveling a lot in rickshaws,
how many times will your audience, your sample point, actually offer you this information? Because remember, you're in out-of-home situations. Now, I can't be walking around only attempting to respond to your app.
right?
You
So
know,
but if
in
it's
fact, it is the least important thing in my life.
So but if you're a part of the sample, this is something that we would expect from you that you would fulfill.
So you're setting people up for a higher risk of dying in a road accident, but say that, listen, I'll pay you $500 per month for that.
Not that way, but
It's just a one-time thing. You need not keep looking at the app while you're walking. It's not.
You just put that data and then you put it in your pocket.
Outdoor locations appear, depending upon your velocity, appear in most cities every 100 meters. Less. Actually, since you mentioned Bandra, from the time you come to the Bandra side of the Mime Causeway till you reach the linking road, SV Road junction, there must be 50 sites in that 1 kilometer.
Agreed. So we don't want you to tell us which hoarding you've seen at that minute. We just want you to tell us the mode of transport and the route that you've taken. Once you come back home, your home coordinates are registered.
And that is when
we will put forward the questions that have you seen this
So you're going to harass me twice, not once. Lovely. Good on you.